Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. It is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. On this episode, we are joined by Gene A. White Jr., host of the Hijack My Life podcast. The rapper and singer Tory Lanez was found guilty of 3 charges related to the July 2020 shooting of fellow rapper Megan Thee Stallion in Hollywood Hills, and he was convicted on all 3 counts.
I guess I'm actually kind of surprised by the verdict. I mean, I'm not, I wouldn't sway one way or another in the outcome of that, but I thought it was interesting the way that it was reported. Like, I haven't been really active on Twitter until recently, probably like September of this year, and so I've been more active there. But I was surprised by the outcome, and because I guess I just wasn't necessarily expecting, even with the Kelsey when she took the stand, and just the different things and the way she interacted with the questions that were being asked to her. And so with all of that, it seemed very wishy-washy. So I kind of wonder what was the turning point that just said, okay, well, we're gonna find him guilty on all 3 of these accounts. But I feel sorry for all of the families involved. You know, again, you're glad that you get the justice that's served and the closure for, you know, those who are looking for that. But then you have Tory Lanez has a child, you know, he has family, you know, and so now, you know, we have these different things. So that goes back into, again, let's be very careful about what we're doing, taking accountability and the action of these different things in the heat of the moment that can cause us to have to give those things up, give away our freedom, give away our, you know, whatever it is that we actually have that we hold dear to us. So.
True. Is that your man answer, or is that...
I just don't want nobody to cancel me from this show and they'll come and listen to mine.
Oh my God. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. I'm your host, Jen. Today we have a special guest. We are joined by Gene A. White Jr. So the future Dr. Gene A. White Jr., who is pursuing a doctorate, and he is the host and creator of the Hijack My Life podcast. Welcome to the show, Gene.
Hello. Glad to be here. Super excited to be here. And thanks for the invite.
Definitely. I'm glad to have you on the show for our year-end review, where we will do a high-level review over some of the impactful stories of 2022. I was glad to connect with Gene here on Clubhouse, the Clubhouse app, and discuss some podcast topics and best practices. Tell us about your podcast briefly.
Well, my podcast is a personal growth and development podcast. It's called Hijack My Life Podcast. And basically, I help busy individuals take back the control of their lives from a world that seeks to monopolize their time, their talent, and their energy. And that's what I do in a nutshell. But it's basically one of those podcasts that we touch on different topics when it comes to like things that I've dealt with in my past. Things I'm still dealing with, procrastination, especially working through a doctorate and all that kind of stuff, is, you know, procrastination and time management and just feeling, am I enough, like imposter syndrome, those type of topics. So if you have any type of struggles in your life, or you just want to get some more information and feel better, then come see us.
Definitely. That's awesome. I listened to a couple episodes and I definitely was inspired. I heard you speak in some rooms and definitely took away some helpful information and could relate to some of your background coming from retail many moons ago and things like that.
Yes.
So welcome. Yeah. Okay. So let's just get right into it. In the beginning of the year, some stories from January, February. One significant one that I wanted to make sure we mentioned was the Dante Wright Kim Potter verdict, where we may remember in Minnesota, former Minnesota cop Kim Potter was responsible for the death of Dante Wright, who was a young African-American man killed by this former police officer. And it occurred when the former officer Potter mistook her taser for her service weapon. And this is back in April. And the result of this is he was 20 years old when he was fatally shot by Kimberly Potter during a traffic stop and an attempted arrest for outstanding arrest warrant in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Or she was sentenced back in February, but her conviction was for first degree manslaughter. Do you remember this case? The whole discussion about her, how could she mistake her taser?
Right. I felt the same way when I heard about this case, just about, if you're a trained officer, and how do you mistake, even in the heat of the moment, like, was it that much of a threat that you say, okay, I have this adrenaline running instead of me picking up my weapon or my taser to subdue the threat, then I'm going to pick up the actual gun. Like, I've never been a police officer and haven't held a taser, but
Mhm.
I find it kind of hard to, believe that you were that being a trained officer, that you were that in trouble or that nervous that you actually made that mistake, which is a fatal mistake.
Just a really tragic case, but it just seemed like she just
Yeah.
panicked when he took off that way. And I guess some people's reaction is when they stop, they just, their reaction is to run,
Mhm.
which, you just wonder, like, had he not ran or, attempted to run off, would that have changed things in this case?
Right. Absolutely.
Definitely, RIP to Dante Wright, and shout out to his parents who really kind of turned into some activists here after the matter happened quickly. Especially his mother went to the scene and definitely questioned and basically had to really do a lot to find out what went on, and even the days and months after they really showed up for him, to make sure he got justice in this case. So I definitely want to acknowledge their activism work. And that'll bring us to our next story I wanted to bring up, which was Lauren Smith Fields. This was a 23-year-old college student who died after meeting a gentleman. This story is out of Connecticut. Went on a date with some older white man from Bumble dating app, and then her death was ruled accidental. There's a lot of questions that the family had in this case, and it really didn't get a whole lot of attention. There's still questions to this day because nobody has been, arrested or anything like that. Any thoughts on this case?
Stay off of the dating apps. you
Okay.
know, right.
Yeah.
I There's so many of them that are actually popping up. Between your Bumbles and your Facebook datings and all of these different ones. That Hinge is one that's made to be deleted. This is not a promotion, but anyhow, no, it is for me. I think it's very, very tragic that this has actually happened when somebody who was really just, trying to find companionship or just to have a good time or, to be able to get out there and put herself, and explore what was out there for a young lady. And so, but the reality of it is this could happen. I mean, taking an Uber, or ordering
True.
food, So it's one of those things where we have to just make sure that we're out here staying safe, being careful, and trying to be as aware of our surroundings as we possibly can. So
Right. And I've seen some people even look further into, questions in this case, like the gentleman who was the last one to see her alive. Normally there's a little
mm,
more pressure on the last person to see you alive and, like just slept in the same bed with you. And it's just odd that this person wasn't looked at as a person of interest, and it's thought that his status, his connection to the police, and he knew certain people, and that when he was quickly ruled out of being anyone connected to the case. And it's just really one of those troubling cases that we've seen, involving a young Black woman, and and you have a family who's looking for answers.
mhm.
So you just hate to see that.
You have to wonder though,
Definitely.
if she wasn't, melanated, would and this was somebody else, would there be more pressure put on this? You know?
Exactly. I mean, I feel like that's definitely a factor.
Hmm.
And, there's also a lot of rumors that, she was like into the sugar baby lifestyle and that,
Mm.
and so there wasn't a lot of sympathy for her or what have you. And that's kind of besides the point, and the family still needs justice. And, the police should definitely still pursue their investigation as they would anyone else's investigation, because it was discussion of evidence not handled the right way and things like that. And that's a problem. It's definitely a problem.
Well, that also made me think about. I was watching a video yesterday, I believe it was, when they talked about with the more recent death of Twitch, and how
Mhm.
his wife wasn't a she was able to put this information out, but then she wasn't necessarily like the first suspect that they started to think about. Okay, let's question, what was going on here. It's just like she's allowed to do this, but then there wasn't a question of her role and in the start of the investigation. So, like you talked
Oh,
about
DJ Twitch from Ellen,
yes,
right?
yes, yes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, DJ Twitch. Yeah. But that reminded me when you talked about how the last person that had seen Lauren Smith, it he wasn't questioned and there wasn't more pressure put on there. That same commentator was talking about that situation in the death of DJ Twitch as well.
Right. Yeah, definitely you're kind of looking at your records, your
Hmm.
bank transactions, your financials, and any significant other, your partner or what have you. And it's just from watching Law and Order and things like that. Big Law and Order supporter. But
Hey,
yeah,
SVU is the best.
I agree. I agree. I agree. So, yeah, I definitely look for things to be handled, with respect to justice and, truth, and
Right.
investigation should be handled in the right manner, for sure.
Absolutely.
So, moving right along, Ahmaud Arbery's killers hate crimes trial took place this part of the year, and definitely wanted to acknowledge that everything that the Aubrey family went through and trying to get justice for this case. Oh my goodness. But it was just back in February that the jury found the three killers guilty of the federal hate crime. After all the things that have went on, they got it ruled as a hate crime and they were found guilty. We've talked about this case many times on the show. It's interesting that they tried to get out of it and things like that, and say that they what is it wasn't a private street and things like that. Any thoughts on the so many things that happened in this case? This really could be a movie. I feel everything they went through trying to get charges, from the mishandling front with the investigators and that district attorney. I mean, it totally could be a book or a movie. um any words?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing that depiction of that movie with everything that goes on, and I'm glad
Mhm.
that justice. Uh, I'm not gonna say justice was served because it was just very very tragic of what happened, but I am glad there can be some closure for the family, the friends, the loved ones, and all those who have supported the case and just the situation in itself. But I'm glad that they actually were convicted from that standpoint versus getting away with it scot free, especially after everything they've done trying to get out of it.
Definitely. And this is caught on video, like
Yes,
they really a disturbing video that people probably could find on the internet somewhere. Trigger warning on that if you do, which shows his final moments, and it's just really troubling. So yeah. So, the next story I want to bring to everyone's attention is the confirmation of the Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. This was a historic moment that we definitely wanted to highlight, that she will serve as the 116th Supreme Court Justice. And she was sworn in the summer, and she will be the first Black woman ever to serve on the nation's highest court. So, definitely a moment in history. And all this time, never ever a Black woman as a Supreme Court justice.
Ain't
So,
that crazy? Like, I mean, I guess if you think about it, then maybe it's not so crazy. But like all of these very intelligent and powerful Black women that have, gotten educations and gone through the system and worked, tirelessly within the criminal justice system to have this for the first time. But Black girl magic. I'm super supportive and happy for that.
definitely, and they, really, put her through it, that confirmation,
True.
with those questions and things like that. So yeah, that was a feat. She made it, and so I'm definitely, proud of this moment. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and so, another moment, looking back over the year, wanted to, bring to everyone's attention was the, rise and fall of Kevin Samuels. We did, lose the YouTube star and relationship expert, Kevin Samuels, back in the summer here. Samuels had 1.4 million subscribers on YouTube, which he really rose to that level in a short amount of time. If you look at his story, a lot of people still don't know his story. And I just want to acknowledge, and I talked about it on the show at the time that it happened, just wanting to acknowledge what he achieved as a content creator, being a content creator in respect for what he achieved in a short amount of time. We know how the YouTube game can work. So he was able to do that, in a quick amount of time, really less than a year. 1.4 million is quite significant. Where he focused on dating and relationships, and his content. Even though he started with different content in the beginning, he was more like a stylist, if you would, and would talk about like men's dress and cologne, even. And there was something, he was always very well dressed, and that was something like that was his background. And then he kind of pivot with his content, and his numbers took off when he started talking about these male female, relationship type of content. I think the one video that really most memorable for people were is in April. He had a video about women who were 35 and unmarried being leftovers. And there was like a public outcry after that. And this whole discussion of the high value, low value man or woman. Your thoughts on the Kevin Samuel?
Tight-lipped. I have no. I'm just playing. No thoughts. I don't want to be. Y'all don't come after me. But no, I thought his. I really think that what he was able to do was capture attention. He
Mhm.
hit his stride at the best time possible when we were shut down with pandemic situations and all of that kind of stuff. So he was able to hit his stride and start to really amass this following and this different group of people. Haters actually sell. When I mean hater, people that hate you, you got people that like you, and so he had
Right.
enough discourse between those people who didn't like what he had to say, and he was unapologetic about it. He essentially played the role of this character, and it was like, okay, well, if you don't like my character, you're still watching because you don't
Mhm.
like, you want to see what I'm going to say next, and I'm not going to be able to afraid to say that because I don't care what you're thinking, because it's still gaining me more followers. I'm still getting paid on this piece and this character that I am. Not to say that wasn't who he was, but we all have, as a content creator, you have this, even when you're authentically yourself, you're not authentically maybe that particular person. I'm not the same gene that I am. Like, I'm not trying to be inspirational 24/7 a day. Some days I'm just
Okay.
like, you know what I mean? So, it's still a personality that you have to turn on and turn off at some point in
It
time,
is. It
you
is.
know? And so I think that's what he did a very good job of, was to embrace that villainy that he was, and then to be
Oh
able
yeah,
to
totally. Yeah, I mean,
And so,
he very performative. I mean, we're like with sound effects and everything, and it's just like, come on, you're sitting here in this nice, well,
mhm,
tailored suit. We
mhm,
imagine, and you're playing the clown sound effects when you're talking. He knew what he was doing. He definitely
absolutely.
knew what he was doing. So
And we played right into that. He was like, okay, well, let me look and see what he's talking about today, and it
I
you just
know,
you it was almost like men versus women at this point now. It's just like, all right.
yeah, right. It was just like what Clubhouse looks like on any given day.
Right.
you
I would
know.
love to just kind of see what his story completely was and what his thought process, because he was in the height of that, when he passed away. And so I would love to
Yes.
have seen when he goes back and look and say, okay, this is what I did and this was the decision I made to actually start to do this thing, and so just the mindset behind that would have been interesting to hear from him.
Definitely. I don't know if you watched the show Atlanta, but he had an acting role on
Mm,
that last season,
okay.
and it was like hilarious. And I definitely could have seen him doing more of that type of, satire, tongue in cheek,
Hmm. Hmm.
type of comedy, which he probably wouldn't even have thought to do. But it was just like hilarious that episode that he was on, and it was just spot on, and he played it up, that whole satire kind of sarcastic type of comedy that Donald Glover brings to the forefront or what have you.
Hmm.
And I think totally could have done that and pivot into doing that type of content. I did hear on Clubhouse, I don't know if it's true or not, that like his family was trying to like uncover content and getting his passwords, and he was like sitting on like a whole bunch of files and things that he probably was. I mean, I used to look at his YouTube content, and it would seem like he would have it very organized and late, or maybe scheduled maybe to a certain point. And he has his subscribers who paid into him. So yeah, very well, we've said a lot about Kevin Samuels because he has upset many.
Look,
um
you can only say enough before they start coming for you, so you kind of have to like keep it. We don't want to
no.
get canceled.
Look, we said enough. No.
Right. There you go.
I'll
Absolutely.
just say we said a lot. So R.I.P. to Kevin Samuels, but
Yes, sir.
I did want to mention it since he did, achieve a lot and he upset many.
Facts.
Yeah. So yeah. Moving right along. This story, tragic story, in June, the Buffalo supermarket shooting in Buffalo, New York. In the suspect responsible for this matter was a Peyton Gendrick. He was an 18-year-old white man from Buffalo, New York. The supermarket was Tops Friendly Market, and it had so many mass shootings occur this year. We were just talking about that, over 600, but this is one of the larger ones that happened in the summertime, and 11 of the 13 people shot were black, and it appears to be hate motivated racial crime. And just any thoughts about this tragic shooting?
When we were talking about this, I was trying to remember where I was when all of this was going down, and I couldn't think of where I was. I was trying to think, was I at work at the time when all of this? But I just knew that it was. I just couldn't believe it, even with the environment that we're in and how many of these shootings that occur. It's like it's still unbelievable when they happen. It's like it's not unbelievable. Maybe it's just a surreal moment,
Mhm.
and you're just like, wow. But you know, the fact that he got these weapons, then drove to this community and then did this act, it just floored me. Like the level of thought and like what kind of level of hate do you have to go out and perform this type of act, and it was, I mean, it was very tough to hear about this terrible, terrible story. So I just am hoping and wishing that the families are processing it and that they're able to get through this, because like these are people that were just going, like I said earlier, I mean, ordering food and this could happen to you. Going on an Uber, this could
Right.
happen to you.
Mhm.
So these are people going to the grocery store just to get food to, buy it for supper tonight or for the weekend. And so not knowing that they
Right.
weren't gonna come back home. So, yeah, it was tragic.
It is, and then to be committed by such a young person, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Then they found this manifesto document, and there's in the stories that followed, he had captured the incident and had been communicating with a community on, was it Twitch or some
Mhm.
online community? And so that's kind of, another scary thought that someone he wanted people to see this, there was this plan behind the actions. And it was a thought of, did he act alone? And then this whole discussion of a lone wolf and things like that. And it's just really disturbing behavior. No, I had quite a few episodes about it. One episode I had a white gentleman, shout out to Crash Barboza, on to discuss it with me. He's a content creator, and was just talking about like how impactful, or what he was trying to accomplish with communicating with people on Twitch like that. And he's like, well, I don't have that kind of content, but you definitely, if you're doing that, you want people to see it for a reason, and there's intention behind that. And so that's why I had him on, and just wanted to have those discussions with someone of a different ethnicity and background, because we have to have these conversations if we wish for things to get better, with diversity and things like that. But yeah, it was really tragic shooting that just really makes me sad. But it also shows the amount of privilege that went on. He had a uh, threat that he made at his school earlier, and he was still able to graduate. And nothing, very little to anything was done with the prior threat that he had made. In these cases, that it just doesn't happen out of thin air. Usually there's a little more to it. So yeah.
The fact that he was 18 years old and able to go and get this weapon, like, so, like,
Mhm.
I'm 40 and I still don't have one of those. Like, what I mean? It's just like
Yeah,
just being
yeah.
able to say, okay, this is a priority. Like, of all the things that he could, 18 years old, I was trying to buy a car, but this was his priority to go and get this weapon. You know what I mean?
And you see
And
that with these other shootings too. The shooting that was here in St. Louis, that kid was what, 19, but he had got his weapon. I think he got it on a private sale, and that's
Mhm.
kind of like less red tape you have to go through on a private
Right,
sale. So really you can get it from any old body, with
right.
that regard. So
Well,
that's
well,
yeah.
something else that's actually that I've just made aware of here yesterday also are 3D printed. Like, there are some pretty, they call
Hmm.
them ghost guns.
Mhm.
And so they're 3D printed weapons that, I mean, you can buy the whole kit. You just go out there and Google it. And so they're only regulated in like 10 states, I think it is. It's very few states that are regulated by these. So it's like open season on these things. If you want to go, like, you have to have the guy was saying that you have to have a passion to actually go out, spend 10 hours 3D printing this particular gun, and go through the process of the kit and putting it together, which
Oh
is, I
my
mean, it's
God.
mostly plastic, no serial number on it. And I'm not giving anybody any tips, nothing like that, but just saying that this thing is out
Yeah.
there. And I was able to literally go and Google this and saw that. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. So soon we'll, see the updates. In this case, I'll be looking forward to that trial and things like that, so we can make sure that he is, held accountable for that crime. But it was really awful to see that, along with the other mass shootings, which we have later in the stories we'll cover. So, moving right along, the next one I have on the list is about Brittany Griner. And let's see, Brittany Griner was detained back in February of the year for being detained in Russia after cartridges containing Haddish or Haddish. I guess
Hashish.
it's like Haddish oil, which is basically like your THC oil or what
Hmm.
have you, or cannabis oil, was found
Hmm.
in her luggage. And so she was later arrested on smuggling charges. She had been entering Russia to play in the Russian Premier League during the WNBA offseason, and her trial began in July, where she pled guilty to the charges. And then yeah, so she had pled guilty, and then we had a recent update here in December, December 8th. She was released in a prisoner exchange for the Russian arms dealer Victor Bout. He's a notorious arms dealer who was serving 25 years in a U.S. prison, and so they did make the swap for Brittany Griner. But I just remember being so upset, that she got sentenced with 9 years initially for very small amount of the cannabis oil. Where we had talked about on this show that people with larger amounts had gotten lesser time. So it seems like she really was kind of caught up in the politics of what was going on with the Russia Ukraine war. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. She definitely got caught up in that piece of it. It was a wrong time to go to Russia. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Um, the it, talk in the this whole swap situation, like it was complete BS. The fact that she got 9 years for a little bit amount of product, basically, but it also just the fact that you got this 9 years, and now the U.S. is having to release this war criminal, of that sentenced 25 years just to get her back, and so we're kind of in this season of, all right, we're how this tit for tat, let's trade one of ours for one of yours, basically. So the Trevor Reed situation was another one, and now I was reading after Brittany got back that there's another Marine there, Paul Whelan, who is still there, and he a little
Yes.
salty about the fact that she's got out in this whole trade, but he's still in there and still fighting for his life in this Russian prison. So it's just a tough
Yeah,
situation all around.
it is. And hopefully Biden will be able to get him back. You think he'll be able to do that soon?
How many more of theirs do we have over here? Because I
It's
mean,
like,
that's
what
how
do we
many.
got? It's like,
What
we
kind of
got to
cap?
give
What
up
trade capital
something.
do we have? Like it's like this the
Right.
NBA trade season. What's
Yeah, they're gonna have to work that one out. But maybe Uncle Joe can pull it off.
That's it.
I
That's it.
don't know. So yeah. Um,
But I'm
but
glad she's
hopefully,
back though.
because for sure, and the US supports that gentleman who is a veteran or what
Yes.
have you. So I feel
Hmm.
like they're working on it. So yeah,
Absolutely. I saw where I think it
definitely.
was her significant other, Brittany's significant other, was actually advocating for him to come home too.
Oh,
And so,
good.
yeah. Hmm.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and so next I wanted to just acknowledge the significant amount of mass shootings that occurred in this year. There is a website, the Gun Violence Archive, that has them all organized and listed with the details and dates and such. Where this information comes from. And so it's documented that at least 635, and that may be off, but and that's through December, have occurred so far since the beginning of 2022. It just doesn't even sound like that could be real, but that's a lot.
That's almost
635.
two a day. Like,
Yeah.
that's literally almost 2 a day. Just like, wow. Yeah, it
Yeah. I
is
mean,
definitely unreal.
it is. I mean, some of these attacks were in Walmart, just like we talked about the Friendlies, uh, grocery store in Buffalo, New York. So we had some nightclubs, a nightclub in Colorado. There was a school shooting, which actually the first school shooting in St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm from, that just happened not too long ago. That was really a sad moment for me, being my hometown, and two people lost their life, a teacher and a student. And yeah, it's just really hard. And I actually had to go into the classroom unexpectedly this year. So that's a scary thought.
Yeah, man. I work in higher education,
Mhm.
and so I'm in Arkansas, and working in higher education, we have that thought as well. And then here in Arkansas, if you have a enhanced concealed carry, then you can bring your weapon on campus. But yet we
Oh,
can't.
really?
We can't now. You can't bring it into like football games and things like that. Of course, you can't take it into federal buildings and those types of situations. But if you have it enhanced and you've gone through the 8-hour course and got your enhanced concealed carry license, then you can bring it to the school on our college campuses. And so unless that school has opted out of that, and we're not allowed to ask, hey, do you have a weapon on you? You know what I mean? Even, of course, you're not supposed to let it be seen because it's concealed. It's supposed to be hidden. But it is a sobering thought that at any point in time, how many weapons are actually on campus that are not from our police department or our security staff? So, it's one of those things that you kind of have to be mindful and conscious of.
Right, definitely. That is a scary thought.
Yes.
Being on a university, that brings to mind the recent University of Virginia shooting, which young African American with the football players. We actually one of our fellow podcast friends taught teaches at that university. Shout out to Lisa. And had to deal with that. And I know she was saying that they went back to school so soon after, and there was kind of a discussion if had it been, maybe not all African American people involved in that shooting, would it, have, oh, let's get them back and get them back to class and things like that. So there's some other, things go on with these shootings. Not only are you dealing with the trauma and the effects of, being people being scared and frightened and things like that, and just anxiety, but then the response of the administration and things like that. And you just are left with those types of questions.
Yeah, it is very sobering. Absolutely.
Definitely. And just, being in the classroom with little ones, I know I thought about that, especially like, most of the elementary classrooms have that little rectangle shaped glass in the door. And then they put like some little piece of, they fashioned like a piece of paper that can be pulled down. And they put that there because of shootings. And that's like a constant reminder to me while I did my little short stint as a substitute teacher for what was it, 2 months or something like that. That any moment something could happen. There's no metal detectors here. I mean, they try to they buzz people in, but especially if you go around to the side door, especially where the food people entry comes in,
Mhm.
something could happen. And yeah, because it's not very hard to get into a school.
No, you try to take all the precautions that you can. One thing that was nice, and I hope that more schools are doing this, that one thing that we've done at, well, my former institution now, because I'm starting a new job in January, but one of my, what we've done is we did the active shooter training. So there were multiple active shooter trainings for us as individuals, if depending on where we were at the time. So we actually had a welding program where they fashioned these security bars on the doors, where if there was an issue that came up, these bars were already welded to the wall, and then they would fit and slide into the slots on the door handles so that it can't be opened from the outside. So if there was an active shooting incident that was or even a scare, then you go into your precautions and to make sure until the threat is minimized. And so hopefully institutions, both higher ed, K through 12, are
Mhm.
taking these and giving these trainings. They're putting measures in place like the mass texting to the constituents of the institution. So making sure that the teachers are able to get these mass emergency alerts, and that the students are able to get emergency alerts specifically in higher education, but and
Yeah.
even parents, that they're able to get these so that just in case something happens, the training and the precautions can go into it, and hopefully that minimizes that risk of casualties. Like you say, it's easy to get in there, but hopefully it'll start to minimize the risk of people really getting injured in those situations.
True, definitely. That training is critical and crucial um, for people's survival. So definitely can save lives. I know we've talked about what to do in an active. I guess it's a different way they refer to it now, but active shooter, active some situation,
Mm.
and run, hide, fight, and things like that, or can save your life. So it will definitely plan to have more of those type of conversations because we it may save someone's life one day. So definitely, I'm glad you brought that up. And so this next story is about the artist formerly known as Kanye West. Yay. And so a lot of things went on with Yay this year. The one I guess significant one, because actually he was on Drink Champs more than once, but the last time he was on the podcast Drink Champs, many comments were made that caused a lot of controversy and issues in his career, where he made anti-Semitic comments and talked about conspiracy theories, talking about his thoughts on Black Lives Matter and George Floyd. And as a result, several of his business relationships were ended. I know we had a conversation on this show about, having responsibility when we go out in public on platforms, speaking, and that, actions and repercussions can follow us after, maybe we share a certain opinion and we're responsible for that. Are we shown more grace or less grace? And we kind of had talked about that type of thought. Your thoughts on Yay?
Yeah, you always have to be accountable for what you actually say and what you do. I mean, like you said, we have to own those thoughts, those opinions, and hopefully when you are out and you're representing yourself or your company or organization, that you're making sure that you are very wise and with your words or whatever you say. Even if you want to be reckless with them, just make sure that you're going to own them and know that they have those consequences there. And I don't know if these are just, if he's just reckless right now, if there's some kind of master plan beside this or what he got going on, but it is very interesting to watch this, what would seem to be a spiral that
Yeah.
of what's going on. And so it's very interesting to see, because it's almost like I can't miss TV. He's like, I can't believe he did it again. It's just like
Yeah.
those every every sentence is something new. And so, people are definitely reacting to it. And so, and it's causing these this heightened awareness, because then after he says what he says, and then you have the Kyrie situation where he just shared a video, and then
Mhm.
he feels the effect of what was said by Kanye. So Kanye is not, or I'm sorry, Ye is not only having to own that, but his actions actually affect others, and the things that they do as well. So we just have to stay vigilant and stay cautious.
Right. Definitely a reminder that even in a very small platform, independent podcaster, what you say has or can have repercussions. You're definitely held held accountable for what you say at any point in time. People can pull up, clips and things like that. And it's just interesting to see that, he lost, a lot of significant monies, as a result of the things that he shared. And, like you said, he's dealing or has spoke publicly about dealing with bipolarism and things like that. And we don't know if this is part of that. And then he's also going through custody battle troubles in relation to his divorce. And he has shared a lot about that publicly too. And so, and this may have something to do with those thoughts. And then the whole Kyrie thing, we kind of touched on that briefly too. And then, like you said, he just, even just a mere share of something that really not even the what, a review or
No
it wasn't
comments or
even.
anything, just like,
Yeah.
here's a movie. I watched this, and it's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
But
Right. Even something that insignificant has become, very huge and large, and all these other conversations and um, actions and business dealings have been impacted. So, yeah, definitely reminder.
yes, yes, stay vigilant. Be careful.
For sure. For sure. I mean, someone said in my YouTube comments that they didn't, like, or I wasn't interesting enough or whatever they said about me. And so, I have to live with that. I can either delete that comment or keep it on there or whatever. But I mean, or it can get, more serious too if I, say something, and you just have to be mindful of what you say. So.
I mean, you could always go the Kevin Samuels route and just turn them into a hater, and they just because you're not interested enough, maybe they'll keep giving you attention. Just, so
Well, yeah, it's like, well, that's someone's opinion rather than,
right,
opinion on one's, religion or something like that.
right.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, I did, feel a type of way about that comment, but I got over it. So I think I turned it into a reel actually.
Very
Yeah.
nice. They say you
Hey,
have to
turn
have
them into
tough
content.
skin.
Look.
That's it. Turn it into a positive. Absolutely. But they
Yeah.
say this whole YouTube thing, which I haven't really delved into it, like I would like to. But you have to have thick skin on it. But I when I released music back in 2012, 2014, it was still, I hear good things, and then you have to have thick skin when you ask somebody, "Hey, have you heard that you listen to that album?" It's like, "Yeah, no, I hadn't heard that yet." Okay, cool. So that's almost as bad as somebody saying, "Well, you suck." You know what I mean? Just the fact that I'm asking you, "Hey, take God, listen to it," and you're like, "Yeah, no, I don't." Or they will say, "Oh, yeah, I don't really do the Christian rap thing." I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that's cool then. Appreciate it. Thick skin." So,
See?
yeah, absolutely. You have to develop it. Just be like, you know what, whatever. It is what it is. Because the thing about it is, in that situation, your content, your message, your um anything that you're delivering, your personality is going to hit and home with the people that need to hear it. And so when I was even making music, I was just like, okay, I just need to make this music that I enjoy making. And then the people who need to hear it, they're going to resonate with this. And so it's the same thing with the podcast or any kind of content that you create. The people who need to hear that, they're going to resonate with it. They're going to people who don't like it and they don't care for it, or they feel a certain type of way about it. Well, it wasn't for them anyway. Keep creating and keep doing it, because there's somebody that does need that, and they will reach out to you just like those others who have opinions, and they'll let you know that they needed that day.
For sure. For sure. Definitely. Yeah, something to think about. But yeah,
Facts.
I just always have been a big Kanye fan, from the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's hard to hear, some of these comments that he's shared. So, but yeah.
Right. I'm going to go listen to College Dropout as soon as we get done.
Hey. I mean, that's the one. That is one of the
Yo,
ones. It really
Dropout,
is.
Late Registration, like when all that was going, especially when his documentary came out on Netflix, I was like, I'm going back and listening to all of these joints. Like, oh, I remember that, on repeat.
Yeah, that was a really good time in music.
Mhm.
Um, Definitely. Okay, so just a few more. We went a little longer than I wanted to, but that's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, it's probably my fault. I had a lot on the list. I took a few off, but I didn't take enough off. But
I
yeah, I
got
definitely
you.
want to bring this one up. This story concerning the mysterious death of Shanquilla Robinson. And we learned about this story not too long ago. And a young woman and six of her friends took a trip to Cabo in Mexico. There was footage shown of the woman being beaten by another woman. And so we learned that she had been in a fight over there, and I guess not even less than 24 hours after arriving into Cabo, she ended up dead. And so it was a lot of questions about how and what, and then things start becoming uncovered with the family, learning more, and it appears that she lost her life as a result of the fight. It, broken bones and things like that, when initially her family was given a story about dying because of alcohol poisoning. And so the latest update in this story is that one of the individuals who traveled to Cabo with her was arrested, and that is the Dejanay Jackson. We've talked about that on the show also. And she was arrested back in November 28th, and she is going to be extradited back to Mexico to be processed. I imagine that they all should go back. I mean, maybe they've already given their statements, the other parties, because it seems like they all know something or maybe know more than what was previously revealed. And Shaquille Robinson was victim of what is being described as a femicide. So, your thoughts on Shanquella Robinson?
Very unfortunate, but what it reminds me, because I saw the video, and what bothers me about that whole situation is just kind of a microcosm of a lot of stuff. But if I'm in that situation, I'm hoping that my choice would be, and in the past has been, my choice has always be to try to stop the fight. Like, why do we have our first instinct is to, oh, okay, let's get up, grab the phone and record the fight, and
Mhm.
then I won't say the site, but we know the saying that comes along whenever you put up it's like, you know what I mean? And so we gonna hit him with
Yeah.
and it's like, but this is not, why is it our first option or people's first choice is to say, okay, I'm
Mhm.
gonna grab, let's try to stop what's going on. And like, if that somebody would have stepped in, let's just say the person with the camera or one of the other many other people who were actually in the room at that time to stop and to make sure that that didn't escalate, like we're here to have fun, then we wouldn't be having this conversation like this. We never would have known. They would have gone to Cabo, had a good time, came back to their families, and everything would have been great. You can settle differences. First of all, I mean, you can settle differences without, fighting, but if it does go to that, hopefully somebody has the common sense or decency to let's try to stop it. And I think that's my
Yeah.
big issue that comes with that piece of it. It's like, it's very unfortunate, but why are we so quick to pick up the phone? And we're looking for evidence. We journalists now, like we urban journalists.
Right. Yeah. And I guess it's the type of culture that we have grown into,
True.
with everything being, live streamed either on Facebook or with these other platforms. So I don't know, but no one intervened at all. That was troubling to me. If these are my friends, some one of them that she went way, back to early school days with, and no one, and someone's even egging it on or mocking her role in the fight, which is, kind of troubling too. So yeah, that's definitely makes you want to take a look at your friendships, or I know we had some conversations with this with some ladies that I know, and just like, you know people share stories of bad road trips, or trips in general, friend trips that went bad, and how this can be avoided and things like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
It's very troubling, that's for sure. You always have to evaluate that circle and those people that you are definitely surrounding yourself with.
Definitely for sure. And yeah, just always err on the, side of truth and the light or whatever. And I just feel like, someone will tell the truth here, the truth will come out. And so, maybe that helped, lead to the arrest or whatever. So I just feel like the truth will come out. There's so many people involved in this, and it seems like everybody's trying to just save their own neck and not, reveal what they don't want, they think will get them in trouble or something like that.
You know what I'll be mad about in the fact that I spent all this money to, for a trip, whatever the money is and how they split all that up. But I'll be mad that I spent all this money and then our trip gets cut short or whatever it is. We have this black cloud or this cloud. I mean, not throw the black in there, but let me just throw this cloud over here
Ooh.
that we but that this cloud is sitting over our whole trip because we didn't stop this. We didn't intervene. Now
Mhm.
you stress the whole time because you don't know what's gonna come next. You don't know, how we gonna cover this up or whatever the situation was. It's there. And now I've spent money to go enjoy a vacation and have fun, but now there's this. Like just that in itself would have made me just like, yo, chill out. Y'all, like we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Do that on your own
Yeah.
time.
Right. And hopefully that's a lesson for the other people involved to, know what happened and, they haven't been extradited yet. But,
Right.
look, somebody know what happened. But yeah, I just feel for that lady's family,
Yes, absolutely.
it's really sad case. And so that moves us into December for the ones, and there's so many other impactful stories that, I didn't share, but I just, grabbed some ones that I thought was significant to mention. And I appreciate if you're still sticking around. Please subscribe. I always forget to say that, right? Share, like, subscribe, tell a friend. Okay, December. So I definitely want to mention about the Tory Lanez case. We don't do a whole lot of pop culture around here, but this was really significant. So I did want to mention that recently, this month, the rapper and singer Tory Lanez was found guilty of 3 charges related to the July 2020 shooting of fellow rapper Megan the Stallion in Hollywood Hills. And so Lanez had pled not guilty to the assault with a semi automatic firearm, carrying a loaded unregistered firearm in a vehicle, and discharge of the firearm with gross negligence. And he was convicted on all 3 counts. And so he did not take the stand in this case, which lasted 9 days. And the jury was comprised of 5 men and 7 women. And they reached a verdict last Friday. And he is facing a maximum sentence of 22 years in prison and possible deportation back to his native land of Canada. Your thoughts on Tory Lane?
I guess I'm actually kind of surprised by the
Mhm.
verdict. I mean, I'm not I wouldn't sway one way or another in the outcome of that, but I thought it was interesting the way that it was reported. Like I haven't been really active on Twitter until recently, probably like September of this year, and so I've been more active there. But seeing the reports that come out, like back to back to back, what was being said, like I thought that was very modern journalism. I was surprised by the outcome, and because I guess I just wasn't necessarily expecting it. I don't know why, but I didn't follow it very, very closely, but it was interesting to see how it was reported and then just the different things, like even with the Kelsey, when she took the stand and just the different things and the way she interacted with the questions that were being asked to her. And so with all of that, it seemed very wishy-washy. So I kind of wonder what was the turning point that just said, okay, well, we're going to find him guilty on all 3 of these accounts. Um,
Mm.
and then the father's reaction at the end too was interesting as well, where he called out Jay-Z and
Yeah, did you see the
everybody else
little
on the song.
sister?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I saw that too. She was
Uh,
very passionate. It's like
I
she's
was like,
cute.
okay, bless her heart.
Right, exactly.
Well, how'd
Is
she get in here? Who let her in here?
and why y'all recording this? No. Absolutely. But I feel sorry for all of the families involved. Again, you're glad that you get the justice to serve and the closure for, those who are looking for that. But then you have a Tory Lanez has a child, he has family, and so now, we have these different things. So that goes back into, again, let's be very careful about what we're doing, taking accountability and the action of these different things in the heat of the moment that can cause us to have to give those things up, give away our freedom, give away our, whatever it is that we actually have that we hold dear to us. So
True. Is that your man answer or is that
I just don't want nobody to cancel me from this show and they'll come and listen to mine.
Oh my god. No, I had to give you a hard time.
Look, hey, I
No,
like Meg Thee
look.
Stallion. I like Tory. Look, hey, I don't have a dog in the fight. I just, it was interesting.
No, we were talking about this on Clubhouse today, actually. But yeah, I mean, shout out to Meg and Justice for, get her getting justice as a Black woman, who often is not protected in
Right.
this space. And the way that she, was treated, was definitely has to be mentioned,
Mhm.
yeah, she definitely was kind of made out to be this liar even before the trial took place. And you just kind of
I
wonder
agree.
about those things.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, because even in the songs and the different things and these
Mhm.
lines that are kind of aimed at her with these arrows, be like, okay, like I definitely wasn't a fan of that. Um, but yeah, I'm glad that she can kind of get some vindication from that part of it.
For
That's for
sure.
sure.
And then another thing that just kind of touched me, she did this interview with Gail King, which really, looking back, you made me wonder, like, maybe she shouldn't have done that interview because, maybe it had a negative impact on the trial, or, people do these interviews when they forget that the trial is happening and you got to talk about these things in the trial, but the interview doesn't care. They just want to, get something good out of you at the time. And a lot of people talked about, oh, a lie was uncovered from that interview or whatever. But what I remember from that interview was talking about the actual shooting and being scared, being pulled over by the police. And her thought was kind of to make sure they all got out of that situation alive and protecting him, even the person who invoked pain and harm upon me, having of a feeling of wanting to protect that person, even the person who tried to inflict pain and harm against me, a Black woman, and that Black man who tried, that was significant to me. And it says a lot. So because we've seen all these police shootings that have been directed at Black men, you have that feeling of wanting to protect, the Black man or what have you. Even if he is, at odds with me, I want to protect him. I don't want to see him shot down by the police on the ground, or us all shot down, And so I thought that was deep, and something that really has not been, looked at from that perspective.
Yeah, that's very deep, and it reminds me of somebody who, like, say, for instance, a battered wife or girlfriend who, is taking this, but then feels like he's he doesn't love me if he doesn't treat me this way, or this is how he shows his love, and it just hadn't kind of realized that, no, this is not okay. So I'm
Exactly.
this is not what you're supposed to be submitting yourself to. There's other that's out there that, but in the heat of the battle, a lot of times we don't see that, and we don't understand that there is, you just have this cloud, and so you can't see through it until your eyes are open and you're woke by accident. You know what I mean? You can see those things.
Right. See? I like what you did there.
That's all I did there. I got you.
Oh gosh. Oh man. Look. See? You get it. You get it. Okay, that was a better answer. Anyway. So yeah, shout out to Meg the Stallion for that verdict. I had to
Hmm.
send you some funny memes I saw on that. We
Gotcha.
won't talk about that now, but I'll send it to
Okay.
you. This other last one I want to mention was concerning the shooting death of Tatiana Jefferson, and this occurred in Texas. We talked about this story last episode that aired. The verdict was not out at that time. But Aaron Dean, the 38-year-old former white Fort Worth, Texas police officer, is now facing 20 years for or actually not the verdict, but the verdict. Not the sentence, but the verdict. No, he is sentenced. So, okay. So the former Texas police officer was sentenced to nearly 12 years in prison following the manslaughter conviction for the shooting of Tatiana Jefferson. Her shooting occurred back in 2019. You may recall I talked about this on the last episode with Life on as a guest. Yeah, and so this is the one where her man she died back in 2019, and so the update is that he has been sentenced to 12 years. And so we may recall this is the one where she was standing in the doorway and the door had been cracked because they had burned food or something like that, and this officer is being called by the neighbor. The police show up. This officer Dean shows up, and he ends up fatally shooting her, trying to investigate the matter. Which, tragically, when she was just literally standing in her house being black, and ended up dying as a result. So, your thoughts on this one?
Bro, so we can't go. We can't go on a date. We can't get Uber Eats. We can't go to the grocery store, and we can't even live in the house. Just wild black, because
Right.
somebody out to get us. Like this is crazy. Like what are we doing? you
Yeah,
know,
I think I said last time, like, we can't even burn the biscuits.
we can't burn the biscuits. Like, every household, black household, needs to make sure that you got the oven hood up there, so you got the fan on top joint, so that the fire alarm can't go off because they might come through and shoot. So just make sure that you take care of that. Open up a window, don't open up the door. Like this is crazy. Like I didn't know very much about this particular story itself, but I now know that I don't need to burn no food. So, we just gonna chill out with that. Microwave that joint. Don't burn the popcorn. Don't even do that. Cause
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not gonna be good. Or play video games with your 8-year-old nephew. None of that. So
Right.
it's sad.
Definitely. It is. It really is. And, traumatic event for him to have to, relive this and things like that. But 12 years is, more than we may have thought that he would have gotten. So
Right. Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
definitely. So many things went on this year. Definitely looking forward to the new year. Big positivity and oh Lord. Okay. Before my signal goes completely out, remind us of your podcast and any thoughts that you want to share for the new year, and we'll look at your page.
Yeah, I got you. So the podcast is the Hijack My Life podcast. And I can tell you that it really just was born out of a conversation and a lecture that I did on how I could take control of my life from this world that wants to monopolize my time, talent, and energy. And so I started looking at ways to take back control of my time, take back control of just the energy that I was expending out towards things that may or may not really matter. So I started to just be mindful of those different things. And so that's what that podcast is. It is just about me trying to help others the way that I, try to help myself. And then I'm constantly going through those different things. There is a episode that just passed through called A Conversation with My Former Self. And I just was like, what would I tell myself, 18 years ago, if I could really go back and have that conversation? Guarantee you I'd be rich, because I had some couple of stock tips to tell, young Gene, hey, look, man, you need to play these different stocks. But hindsight is 2020. We live, we learn, we keep pushing. So feel free to come by and have a conversation with me. I'm on Twitter at BGWHYTE. That's BG White. I'm on Instagram at Hijack My Life Podcast. I mean, and I'm on Clubhouse as BG White as well too. So let's have a conversation. I like to talk. Sorry.
Definitely. And then, Jean, you mentioned that this was your first time collaborating on a podcast. Is that right?
Yes, actually, this is my first time doing a collab. I actually haven't even recorded a video podcast myself yet. It's all been audio. 2023, that's going to change. We're actually working on a episode for my podcast as well. And so y'all look for that one. That's coming very soon. Evaluating Your Circle. It's a series talking about relationships. So this is going to be good. But yeah, this is my first time actually doing the collab. So, you know, it was nerve wracking, but you made it feel so comfortable. So, you know.
Oh, great. I'm glad. I was so looking forward to you. I'm glad we were able to get our schedules together because I really wanted you to be a part of it. So I appreciate all your shares in our podcast room. And so I definitely wanted to put that out there for everybody to hear.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And it's been a great experience. I set everything up and bring it on in. So I took it serious. So hopefully I did you proud today.
Yay. Awesome. Yep. And shout out to as we were talking more. So shout out to the Pink and Green Alpha Connection. So
hey, absolutely.
and all that. Ski-Fi.
First fam.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure. All right. Well, yeah, so we'll have Gene's links posted, guys, in the notes so that you can check out his content. Check out those podcast episodes. He's really got some great ones out there. And look for more collaborations. So for the new year. Anything
Indeed.
to share for the new year? Some positivity?
Well, yeah, I'm super excited about the new year that's coming in. Got a brand new job giving me an opportunity to I'm moving to Texas. So I'm moving a little bit further away from Missouri, but it's going to be new opportunities, new year, and then hopefully I'm going to do a lot more not hopefully, I am doing a lot more with the podcast. But I'll just be ready to do some different things. I'm going to bring in more guests, and it's going to be pretty nice. There are big things happening. To sum it up, big things happening in 2023.
Good. That's so exciting. Yeah, I'm actually starting a new position in January, so I'm excited about that. So yeah, I was really, yeah. Look, I was so down in the dumps at one point. You know, who would have thought? But God, don't get me started.
Absolutely. Look, we got to do this again. There's some other topics, but yes, absolutely. That whole down in the dump situation and mental awareness and health and all this stuff. Hey, that's good. We're gonna collab on that.
Yeah. Look, that's so that's why I needed you to be on here, dude. I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's awesome. All right. So yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys for listening. Please subscribe, share, and I just, my heart is just so full that you guys check us out, So yeah, this is the New Year episode. So Happy New Year, everybody.
Let's go. Happy New Year.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great one. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke By. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out and also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms, and please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening and take care.